It's another episode of Should It Stay or Should It Go? And I have been cleaning this cabinet in the kitchen pretty harsh, actually. I've actually got it to where I can fit some more cookbooks in there. But as for last week, we had Japanese farm food cookbook on the show to see should it stay or should I let this one go? And I concluded that I'm gonna keep this one. It was just too nice. The recipes were too tasty, but also pretty simple to make and didn't have a lot of exotic ingredients that I had to go chasing down or special equipment that I might need to purchase. So this one was a joy to cook out of, which means it's staying in my collection. But as for this week, what happens when you really like one particular chef and you decide I'm gonna go and get all of their cookbooks because all of them must be really good? You get a stack of cookbooks that I am fixing to show you. Yes, I am a Jamie Oliver fan. I really like his food. I watch his show. I'm subscribed to it on YouTube. And his food is always very tasty. But that led me down a rabbit hole of wanting to get all of his cookbooks. Now you'll notice I got all of them used. I do trade credit at a sort of local used bookstore. So I don't have a lot of money tied into these because, well, actually all of them were trade credit. But do I use them? The answer is no. I haven't cooked out of any in this stack at all since I got them years ago. Some of them like probably 6 or 7 years ago. And that's not counting the 4 that I still have in my cabinet that I'm actually going to keep. I have cooked out of all 4 of these Jamie Oliver books, with this one being my absolute favorite that he's ever done. It made it into one of our videos for top Christmas gifts you can give to a beginner chef. Love it, love it, love it. This one is really good, Meals in Minutes. Meals in Minutes is a little bit of a misnomer because some of those recipes, they take more than just a few minutes. They're pretty involved, but the food is still good and it's still fun to make the food. Jamie Oliver's Great Britain is also really fun, and Jamie Oliver's America was really good. And what I really liked about this one is it's not just, hamburgers, hot dogs, and apple pie. He went all across the country and he got all kinds of different types of food. You see here we've got gumbo from Louisiana, and he went into Texas and got some good Tex-Mex and really got all kinds of food that make up America, such as Italian and Mexican and all kinds of things that just make American food so good. So I love this cookbook. But this is the stack that we're going to be working from today. Now we're only going to cook out of one, and I'm having a hard time because I'm kind of torn about giving up these 2. These right here, this is his earliest ones. I'm going to give those up because it's got a lot of things in there that I wouldn't necessarily eat, like skate and rabbit and octopus and things like that. So I'm not really interested in that. I'm going to let that one go. Same thing for this one. It's got some interesting recipes in there, but not so interesting that I would actually give it a try, such as, like wrapping whole birds in pastry. I'm sure it's really good, but it's probably not something that I'm going to take the time to make. So this one is going to find a new home. This one is the same thing. It is a really good guide to making you a better cook, but only if you really, really like octopus and squid and mussels and clams and rabbits and skate and all those kinds of things. And those aren't necessarily bad things to eat. It's just the fact that it's really hard for me personally to get ingredients like that, and they tend to be extremely expensive. So that is not something that I would be willing to spend my money on. And now we're down to these three. We have recipes from around the world, and it seems really interesting. I just don't know. I'm torn. What do you guys think? It looks really good, doesn't it? It's got some interesting things in it. Maybe we should hang on to this one and put this on the show in the future and just see how we like it. Same thing with this one. You can see I bought this used. It's pretty beat up and taped together. That's actually how I received it. But the inside of the cookbook is beautiful. The pictures are gorgeous. The layout is beautiful. He goes into how he grows all his produce. You see him in his garden, which is a beautiful garden and something to really be jealous of. And there are some simple recipes in here, such as this English onion soup with sage and cheddar. I don't know, guys. I think I'm talking myself into keeping it. Maybe this is another one that we will put on the show to see should it stay or should it go in the future. But the one we're going to be doing today is Jamie Oliver's Jamie's Italy. And this one looks really good. I've never cooked out of it. Now, of course, that's not something that I would make, but fortunately, that wasn't like the majority of the recipes. There's actually some really good stuff in here. Now, there's the risotto we're gonna make, but you can see he's got all kinds of really good risottos, lots of good pasta dishes. He goes into making his own pasta, which looks fairly simple. And he's got a whole chapter on different kinds of pizza. So, I don't know, guys. This is looking really good, too. So, let's go ahead and start cooking out of this one and see if this one's going to stay or if it's going to go. It's going to depend on how good the risotto and the dessert is, because the cookbook itself looks beautiful. So let's go ahead. I pulled out the majority of our ingredients and we are ready to start cooking. Now, I went ahead and heated my olive oil and butter into this pan and added the celery, onion, and garlic. We're going to let this cook, Jamie Oliver said about 15 minutes on low heat, so that's what we're going to do. And that gives us just enough time to go into the greenhouse and get our parsley. I will also show you kind of an update on what some of my plants have been doing. So let's go ahead and head outside. Now, it's beautiful blue skies today and I'm out here without a coat, but if you can believe it, yesterday it was actually snowing. But it's really nice and warm in this greenhouse today. You can see we've already added the shade cloth to the roof. That way it protects the little babies from the worst of the sun. I went ahead and bought some dill. I do have some dill that grows in my herb garden every year, but I kind of wanted to add to it because sometimes they get a little bit beat up by some of the caterpillars around here. So I'm going to get some bigger ones and then just just really watch and make sure that they don't get eaten. But here are the squash plants. You can see they're doing really good. They're really big and probably ready to actually put in the garden, but I can't put them out there yet because we might get one more little frost. So I'm going to keep babying them. But as for the Tennessee seed trial, which, you know, I've got my 2 different kinds of oregano right here, you can see they have been doing really good. I've just got another little baby popping out of the ground right here. And over here, the Italian oregano has just been really going for that sun. So they are really nice. That's going to be some good eating in the summer. As for my tomatoes, you see this one's getting bigger. And over here, some exciting news. We've got another little seedling that has pushed out of the ground. So he's going to start spreading his little leaves here pretty soon. And this one has just gotten bigger and bigger. They love it out here. Now, as for the parsley, I've got some right here. This is what I'm going to use for the risotto. This actually has overwintered. I've got 3 different kinds. Has actually overwintered in this greenhouse beautifully. I have never brought them inside, and they're still just as green and beautiful as they were last year. So let's go ahead and cut some of this and get it ready. I think that should be enough. I made sure to leave enough. And if you notice, I made sure to leave those new little shoots that are coming up for the plant and only took the very tall, mature ones. All right, so let's go ahead, say goodbye to the plants, and we will head back inside. This kitchen smells so unbelievably good with these vegetables roasting in the pan, with our chicken stock heating up back here, and I've already got our skillet. I've put the oil in. It should be hot and ready to put in our mushrooms. Now we're gonna let that go for a bit with our garlic. We're gonna season with salt and pepper. And we're going to do some thyme. Now, the thyme in my herb garden hasn't really started budding yet or leafing out. So I'm going to go ahead and use dried thyme. And we're going to go ahead and stir fry this for just a few minutes, and then we will put this, skillet and all, into the oven so that they can continue to roast. Our vegetables are looking done. Our stock is heated up, mushrooms are in the oven, so I think it's time for us to actually start putting it together. Now I am going to make one substitution to this. Instead of the 2 wine glasses of dry white wine, I'm going to put a little bit of this white wine vinegar. And while on the topic of substitutions, this recipe is going to be a little bit changed as well for the dessert. The recipe does call for vanilla sugar, which I could not find in my area. I went to 2 different towns that, I was just going to go to anyway for some other reasons. And I thought, well, I'll stop and look at some of their, grocery stores and the fresh market, that kind of thing. Could not find vanilla sugar. You can make your own, but vanilla beans are very, very expensive. So what I'm going to do is mix the fruit with a splash of this pure vanilla extract and then sprinkle it with sugar. I think it should give us the same idea. So let's go ahead and get started. Oh, I am so excited. I know I say that all the time, but
It smells really good.
Yeah, I am. Oh my gosh, the smell is so good. All right, let's just tuck in. I can't wait anymore.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. I got that secondary flavor.
Yeah.
Of that thyme and oh my gosh. It is so good. It's so rich and savory and earthy and umami and just everything. It's just the perfect bowl.
With flavor.
Yes. I can't stop. Okay, I've got to stop eating. One more bite.
It is definitely packed with flavor. I don't know that I've ever had, usually, especially with, a rice or something, you end up with, it carries kind of the other flavors of stuff. But, somehow it's infused with its own flavor here that, melds everything together.
Oh, my gosh. If you love rice and cheese and mushrooms and...
Thyme.
I can't think of a better dish.
Yeah.
For you.
No. This is amazing.
Okay, but let's tear ourselves away from this to try and eat the fruit.
Wow. What'd you put in this?
Vanilla.
Oh.
Vanilla and sugar.
I was that's really surprising.
Okay, I had a suspicion that these two things would go great together, and they do. Because, and I wouldn't even save this for dessert. I would just go ahead and serve these both together.
Yeah.
Because you've got the citrusy, the sweetness of the orange and the strawberry kind of cutting.
Yeah.
Right? The
savory.
Yeah, and it's kind of a palate cleanser. So you can just kind of keep on eating the risotto.
Yeah.
So these two work beautifully together.
Very much.
And it just looks pretty. I say if you just put all this on, your table, your family's going to gobble this up. Now, I'm going to try really hard to stop eating long enough to talk about what we think about this cookbook. Now, unlike last week and the week before, we've actually got minimal cleanup for a, recipe of this kind of magnitude.
Caliber?
Yeah, so, I expect a homemade dish. I expect a certain amount of dishes that I have to do. And so this kind of didn't go past my expectation like the last couple weeks had been.
Right.
So I'm actually going to be able to knock out the cleanup pretty quick with this. And you at home will be able to cut down even more because I'm using a little bit more dishes just by nature of how I film than you are going to have to.
Right.
So, that's kind of a plus for me. I liked the fact that it was surprisingly simple. When I first read it, I was like, oh, Lord, I'm going to have to get my sous chef in here. Things are just going to go batty. And it's mostly because I'm constantly having to move cameras around. So I'm adding in extra steps, than your normal home cook. And I was just like, oh, this is going to be like last week. Where that rice dish, just killed us trying to get that done. But I did it.
Yeah. I was waiting for a holler and I never got it.
You didn't have to come in here, and I'm still moving the camera all over the place. So, testament to making a dish that looks really complicated, deceptively doable.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more involved than like your meatloaf, mashed potatoes, and green beans, but it's not to the point where you're just like, I so wish I'd never started this.
Right.
So that's a plus. And of course, the fruit, like that. You know, a great little dessert that tastes great, looks really good, and it took, I don't know, 4 minutes for me to throw all that together. So, you know, great choice, really, that we did. The other recipes look marginally the same, right? Okay. So, you know, you've got your pizzas and pastas and stuff like that might need a little bit of extra steps, but I don't think they're so extra that you just hate it.
Right.
And of course, you already know what we think about the flavor of both dishes. Jamie Oliver rarely disappoints.
Right.
On the taste of his food. And I do think that he has a good range of recipes, of simple all the way to, wow, I need a full-sized commercial kitchen. So he has a full range, you know, of cooking skills that he has. I would put this cookbook in particular in the middle. It's not quite as like easy and accessible as his Revolution cookbook, which is great for beginners. I'd say this is probably like a couple steps above, where you're like, yeah, I've already got, you know, several years experience in the kitchen, and I want something that's a little bit more fancy, but is still not going to break the bank or kill you in the kitchen.
It's still accessible.
Right. So I'm actually happy with this one, which means it's probably gonna stay. So I've, you know, out of the 6 that I pulled out of my cabinet that we've never cooked out of, I'm kind of thinking I'm going to keep 3, and this is going to be one of them, and then 3 are definitely going because they went beyond that scale of what I'm comfortable with doing. So I think those 3 are probably going to get donated. And I kinda think I'm gonna hang on to this one. So you might see those other 2. If we do this again, which we should, because you guys know I've got so many cookbooks, we'll do another round of should it stay or should it go, and we'll do those other 2.
Okay.
To see, you know, they're beautiful and they look good, but should we keep them? So there we go. Wrap up another episode of Should It Stay or Should It Go? And I'm kind of thinking next week we're gonna do a budget meal, but I haven't quite decided exactly what yet. I know. I've got some ideas, because if you've noticed in the footage I showed you with the cleanup, you'll notice I got a little pile of scraps to add to my scrap bag. But I've got another full one already in the freezer. So we might see what other kind of soup that scrap bag can make.
Okay.
So stay tuned for that, because we'll see, I don't know, we'll just experiment and see what happens. So thank you for watching this episode. Really hope you try this. Oh my gosh, you're going to just thank yourself for making it. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
And if you like historical cooking and unusual cookbooks, here's 2 more videos you might enjoy. And make sure to like and subscribe for more foodie adventures.